Welcome back to, what did we decide the name of this? Following Their Lead. I am Marie Muratalla.
Laurie Cook.
And we're on episode 2 of our podcast. Today we're talking about
mindfulness.
Mindfulness in the classroom.
You're talking about our mindfulness as educators, or
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
What would you like to talk about first? I thought all of it.
Right.
But
Right. So mindful as an educator to me means being aware of why I'm doing something, what I'm trying to accomplish, what my goals are overall.
Yeah. When I've done my talks on it with other speech pathologists, both school-based or private practice, both that work with adults from, preschoolers to adults or even younger kids, typically I always like to field that question and ask, what does it mean for you? And you get fun responses. A lot of people say self-care. A lot of people say being in the present moment, which I find to be very true for me. I also have this kind of concept in my mind, like it's more of like an absence of thought. Like it's your ability to kind of be aware of your thoughts, but then get behind them and be in the present moment.
Don't let them control you.
And yeah, exactly. And kind of just understand your thoughts are your thoughts. It doesn't mean that's how you are or who you are. And I think in terms of being in education, there can be a lot that like clouds your mind because there's so many different people you work with every day. There's so many different circumstances. And that's another thing people say, balance. Like having a positive balance, whether it's between work and life or just balance in life overall.
And I'm actually, it's so funny because like before the first day of school, for example, I have all those first day jitters and stuff. And bam, as soon as I see that first child, and it's happened to me every year I've been teaching, as soon as I see and all of a sudden I know my place and I'm there in that moment.
Yeah.
Of course we're thinking, okay, we have an hour to do this, or this is my schedule. Oh, today there's an assembly, or this is happening. But still to be in the present moment is in that knowing, yes, those are the peripheral things that are happening, but I'm here, I'm now, and that way when a child, is interrupting that thought in your head, you're still present.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. I've noticed in the last week, I've just been very focused on the idea of telling my mind not to worry about things that it can't control. So like if it's worrying about something that could happen in the future, like an IEP meeting or something, just like telling my mind, it's not yours to worry about.
Right.
You gotta just take it as it comes.
Right.
But then a part of that, I think, is like the aspect of letting go of how you're reacting to those feelings or reacting to things in the present moment. And in preschool and, early childhood, like kids, and I think we're obviously going to get into like students learning about mindfulness and their emotions and all of that, but their emotions get so big. And then for me too, I see the communication needs in that moment of being able to express your feelings. And I have students that are maybe limited verbal or nonverbal, and we're really working on, just whether it's looking at visuals or signing or just showing me like what hurts or how do you feel. And those are big moments. And so as the adult in that situation, as the person that can model more of that mindfulness, when I let go or initially of like my immediate stressed reaction, I do notice there's like a really, at least so far I've noticed, the kids so much quicker are able to calm down themselves. It's like that co-regulation
Yeah, they're
thing.
watching you.
Yeah, and they're like, if you are focused on letting go and just quieting your mind, you're calmer, you're providing more of a safety for them and that modeling of that calmness. Because sometimes they don't know how to self-regulate.
They don't know how to do it yet. And we all know that we are their first teacher by example, all of us. They start learning from the moment they're born or before.
Oh, yeah.
But some of the things I do in my classroom is we start the mindful concept at the very beginning when I first see them. We talk about the different things that are happening right then, and then we are calm. I keep them calm, and sometimes we'll just stop. Oh, we need a mindful breath. And they all know how to do this since the first day, just this, and why do we do this? So then we come in from outside, they have to cool down and I taught while they're just kind of laying there and looking and listening to the music, and I tell them to breathe. Yesterday I did this visualization with a balloon, and they had to picture it going up, and then I had them I talked about a basket, but I'm teaching them to make that decision, to think about what's going on in their mind. But then as far as feelings and that kind of thing, that looks like on your face that you're sad or that you're hurt. You know, what words can go with that? Or you know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, and something I think I've worked on as an adult is being okay with however I'm feeling. Because I think when I was growing up in school, this wasn't done. I mean,
no.
The whole concept of being mindful and having maybe more self-awareness, or just taking care of yourself.
Taking
just the
ownership for yourself.
Yeah, and the ultimate wellness aspect too of that, the mental health side of it. When I was in school, obviously it wasn't really taught, and it wasn't modeled. Maybe, I mean, of course I have a handful of teachers that I like Mrs. Scheidler, for instance, in 6th grade. Like, she was very much indirectly teaching us these things and helping us find, because ultimately for me, like, mindfulness is the ability to find joy in everything, and to appreciate all the feelings as they come. And as I've gotten into adulthood, I've realized it's okay to feel upset and to really understand why, or to feel hurt or anything like that. It's okay. But had you even asked me 5 years ago, I would have been like, no, I'm fine. You know, doing that, I'm fine.
Right. Old school. We're taught, hide your emotions, be tough, be stoic.
Yeah. And even
there's a place for that.
Sometimes, I understand the need to, fake it till you make it. But sometimes you can't truly, appreciate and, have gratitude until you really, realize this is how I feel. And it makes it harder to be in the present moment if you're not acknowledging how you feel. And then I was working with a student, gosh, I think it was my first or second year in preschool. And he was sitting, we were in a play-based speech therapy session. He's sitting across from me playing with trains. And something bothered him, but I didn't know what it was. Just he started to look sad, and his eyes...
Something triggered it.
Something did, and his eyes were welling up. And I was like, are you okay? And and he was like, yeah, I'm okay. And he was like, you could tell it was just a learned behavior, a pattern where it was like, stop crying, you're okay, kind of a thing that's being taught. And I've been in so many different classrooms, and I've seen this happen in classrooms where the teachers say, no tears, you can't come to, this is going to make you cringe a little bit, but I've actually heard it, oh, you can't come to my center yet until there's no tears. And I'm like, that's teaching them to hide their emotion, and that's hard, and that suppresses. And
it's possible that you might have come into a situation where you didn't realize anything that was preliminary to that. Maybe they had the talk. I don't know. But
no, I know benefit of the doubt.
Maybe that's part of teaching that child the self-regulation is, okay, if you need to cry, this can be when you cry, and when you're ready, come on over.
But and no, you're right, and that can happen too. I know from experience and from having been there the entirety of the day that it was something more along the lines,
more abrupt.
The philosophy was, we're all happy here, so just be happy, kind of a thing. You're 3, you're 4, you're fine.
Telling them they're fine.
Yeah, and while, kids at this age, whether it's because a friend has a toy they want to play with or, whatever, even though we think that is something maybe, for lack of a better term, dumb to be upset over, right? Because we're older and more mature. For a 3-year-old in their world, that is a big deal. And we need to acknowledge that made them feel so badly.
That was another possible title, looking through their eyes.
Well,
if you're looking at it the way they would.
Become the title.
No. I'm just saying there's so many options. That was one of the things, is looking at it. How are they perceiving this? What are they feeling as they're going through this? It's not to us. It's a toy. We get over it.
And I think when we have that ability to understand the importance of acknowledging our emotions as educators for ourselves, then when we have these students, when I have that little boy in my speech room, he's saying, no, Miss M, I'm fine. I, in that moment, kind of knew oh no, he needs to check in with, like, he needs to check in with himself. How do I do this on a 3 or 4-year-old who's 3? How do I do this at his developmental level? And it's such an abstract concept because feelings are so big for kids. And that ability to explain why you feel a certain way is a whole other thing. And so I just told him, like you're saying, I was like, you are showing me, your face is showing me that you're sad or maybe mad. And we grabbed a mirror and, you know, put the mirror up, and I showed him my face and said, this is what I look like when I'm sad. This is what you're looking like. And I feel sad when I can't find my blue train. Because then I was thinking, I'm like, we're playing with trains. Like, maybe he just doesn't see the train he wants. So just to help bring out that language and, like, as an adult, again, trying to be mindful about the situation, say, well, what in the environment, and we talked about this in our first episode, like, what in the environment could have caused this reaction from him? And how can I model the ability to check in with himself and then maybe problem solve, maybe let it go, like, whatever that might be.
Well, it's funny. It just reminds me of one of my little friends, and I was working since day one. If you just said, oh, pretzel leg, we have them sit like a pretzel. But I do give them the choice. If you want to sit on your knees, sit behind somebody else.
Yeah.
So I never make them sit in the same place ever.
Yeah.
Don't see a need for it.
No.
They make their space. Sometimes they want to sit over here, whatever. That's great. But my point was, this friend just would get upset for, you know, if I said pretzel legs, and oh my gosh, she had to talk to me. It was like that. It's like, I'm a horrible person.
I'm getting called out.
I'm a horrible person. I'll blanket it, you know, but and it's not. I don't know. They think of it as called out. I hope not.
No, but
I don't say it like called out to me as like.
No. But I'm putting it in terms of, like, how we might understand it, like, if as an adult, if we're in, like, a lecture or a continuing education course or something, like, you know, you have those moments where, like, you're calling on me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's the spotlight. It's not negative.
But, you know, to be honest, it didn't appear that way. It was more, I could just kind of tell he was just disappointed in himself.
Well, yeah.
Like, he was disappointed that he let me down.
Yeah.
And that made me sad. But, you know, but I had to teach him because I don't want him to feel that way. So we had conversations and that kind of thing. And that when you do that, just fix it. You don't have to get upset.
Yeah. Because
you can just fix your legs and we're fine. Yeah. I'm not mad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just it took some time for him, and it hasn't happened for a long time now. But just the same repetition over and over, just make it right, you know, so that it, or whatever.
Or like you didn't get it right the first time, that's okay. Now you know, kind of a thing, right?
Kind of like, yeah, I mean,
do you think he was, like, having some sort of stress or tension because he was afraid to, like, not please you?
Yeah, and I think it was more like that. And, you know, maybe that's the protocol in his family. You know, he just doesn't want to let anybody down.
Right.
You know what I mean? And wherever that comes from, it's beside the point. I'm trying to teach him to understand that it's okay to make mistakes.
Right.
It's perfectly acceptable, you know, and
it's now, that growth mindset thing.
And then we've talked about it since, like, you know, when I tell you that, you know, to fix something because it may not be safe or something, whatever it is, you just do it. And I just tell him, I'm so proud of you for remembering to be okay.
Yeah.
So it's you know, you have to teach that too. It's okay to.
Well, I'm learning it. Like, I'm
right, with this what you opened with. That's right.
Right. Like, or relearning it, I guess. It's like things you know.
It's a life lesson.
When you're
long term.
Yeah, and when you weren't, like, from TK on, or preschool on, or even earlier on, when those things aren't ingrained in you, you build up opposite patterns and habits, and so you're always able to figure out how to do it differently.
And guess what the first thing I tell him? Breathe.
Yeah. I always tell Mark about this little girl that we have in one of my classes who is just she's one of those kids where I tell him all that, I'm like, her parents are like yogis or something. They have to be, because she just gets it. And she's calm. And the other kids, like, for a good example of how she is with the other kids, because at first we're like, oh, she just wants to be a teacher, she's just a teacher, and as I've watched her, I'm like, no, she gets something about the human connection, and she's so grounded. Cool. It is so cool. Like, I think about her and I get the chills, because I'm like, She just
knows.
She just knows.
Old
she knows
soul.
what she needs. She is. And the kids respond to her over us sometimes because, well, they will always respond to her. She'll go get them and she'll, one little friend was during centers, did not want to come sit at my center. She was just having a moment where she wanted attention, and it was an attention-seeking behavior to go and sit in the corner, and I had 3 other kids. So in that moment, that's where you have to pick and choose. You're like, I want to go and like acknowledge you and show you that I care about you because I know you're seeking attention. But I also have 3 kids that if I'm not sitting here attending to them,
lose it.
We're gone.
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of like, well, in this moment, like, I'm going to let you have your moment. Calm down. I know you'll come back. Well, this little girl got up from my center. And I'm like, you know what? If you feel you can do this, like,
you knew she
I'm
was
not going to tell you stop.
Yeah. Good for you.
So she went over and grabbed her and she said, let's go back and whatever. And the little girl just up and goes with her. Yep. And that happens every day. And she just is so, and then my
nurturing and insightful.
Yeah. And she watches the adults, but she and I think she knows, because I come in and I do circle time in all my classes, and so something I've been focusing on is positive affirmations for them. So we work on whatever sign we're learning that week, and then I do a series of like positive affirmations, and I talk about why we do them. And after the first time I did it, she came up to me, she's like, "Thank you for that." This little 4-year-old.
Wow.
And I was just like, yeah. But I already knew. I was like, she's going to love this.
That's one you'd want to follow.
I know. She's just so, she will go get on the playground. She'll go get a hula hoop, and she'll go to a far corner on the playground, put the hula hoop down, and just sit in it when she needs a break. Like, she knows I need a break.
Put a protective circle around herself.
She'll tell the kids when they come and bug her, she goes, I'm taking time for myself right now.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so cool. And she's so good. Like, she's not mean about it.
Is she a child? Does she love to play? Does she
paint?
Does she
gets
do all of that stuff? Is she getting dirty?
Goofy. She plays dog and cat, and they're out in the dirt. Oh, she's just, like, I always think,
just
like,
in tune. Some of us are.
I just want to meet her parents, because I'm like, what? Like,
yeah.
I want tips for my future.
Yeah.
But it's just cool because it teaches me, and I was telling Mark this, like, when we talk about mindfulness and we're modeling it, it doesn't mean we can't be teaching these things. The kids are never too young to learn these things.
No.
Because I think sometimes I've caught myself even saying, like, well, they're such abstract concepts, or I don't have time in my 20-minute speech sessions to take a mindful moment. And it's like, yes, you do. And I tell speech therapists this all the time, because they're like, well, how do you work it in? I said, you just be there.
You know how I work it in? This is beautiful. At the door every morning.
Well, yeah.
They breathe together. They go.
Exactly.
Every morning. And we have a coach. Mm-hmm. One kid's the coach, and every child knows, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to greet. And they do it, and then we do it when we come in before rest. And everybody does. And they know I'm watching because it's very important. Why?
Right.
Because it makes your brain grow. That's what they're learning, is that this calms our brain down. And when they come in for the first time in the morning, they come into the circle and they talk. And this is when you can socialize, talk about the things you're going to do today. I say make those connections, and you should hear the little conversations.
Oh, yeah.
It's so wonderful. It's the best thing ever. I want people to come see how our routine is at my school, because
I was in a training today, and now this is obviously very SLP specific, but it's not at the same time. It's by any SLPs listening out there, Marge Blanc, and you know about Gestalt language processing, you know about natural language acquisition. I'm just name dropping because I got to be taught by her today. Yay! And all the SLPs in the world are probably like, oh, what? You're so lucky. Because I am, and I'm so grateful. No,
they're thinking that.
When I went to ASHA in November, she is like one of the SLPs I already knew, because I know her name. It's on all the articles I read and stuff. Right. But like, everybody was like, her team is doing a presentation. Like, everybody feels the same way I do about it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then she did our training today. And that was so cool. But anyways, the very first thing she says to prioritize, she goes through all, like, in summary, obviously, there's different stages for kids that learn language in Gestalts, which just when kids, I'm trying to explain this because I'm thinking like, oh yeah, you're a gen ed TK teacher, so maybe
we're talking to some gen ed people, so
when kids learn language through what you might call scripting, so if you have kids that like script familiar books or movies, like I have a kid that loves Hungry Caterpillar, and when he's social, he starts doing, on Monday he ate, on Tuesday he ate, but that's him like engaging and telling me like different things, like, you know, anyway, so there's different stages, and she talks about how to work with students at all these different stages. But the first thing she says in all of them is you prioritize the connection. And I just loved it because her whole presentation was just so based on that connection, but also the intention to be mindful about being there and learning alongside your student. And I appreciate that, because that's what I talk about all the time when it comes to being mindful in the classrooms or with my speech kids, and specifically in therapy sessions. Mm-hmm. But like you're saying, like the minute they come in, you are either modeling it or doing very obvious, like overt lessons on it. And in a speech therapy room, you can, I always tell speech therapists, why aren't you sitting there listening to them? Like, that is a moment that you're modeling. If you're being there and you're being open to what they're saying, and you're not rushing them along, and you know, you're taking in their ideas.
Yes, take their ideas. That's a whole topic.
Yeah, it
because
is.
Their ideas are huge. A little girl asked me today, I was so excited. She said, I want to play with that white stuff that drips. And I said, oh, the PUD. I call it PUD, cornstarch and water. Fascinating. So you bet it'll be on my table Monday.
Yeah.
It'll be there. And I always am asking them, when you think of things that you want to do that we've done before, you let me know, and I will try to make that happen. And I always do. So, and that matters to them, because I'm asking them to plan what they want to do each day. So if they're going to tell me a future plan, I gotta honor that. Yeah, right.
100%.
So it's exciting to do. I love being that teacher that can do that and can figure it out, you know, for them.
Yeah, no, it makes a difference, and they remember.
Yeah,
and I always
it's not on the lesson plan. It's not in the curriculum, but I fit it in. Right?
It is, but it isn't,
find
right?
A way.
Like you.
Well, we're supposed to have sensory activities, so we're going to do this because that child wants it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we'll do the other two, but
you make it work.
You have to use the child's. You have to follow their lead.
There's just so much you can, like I said, these are podcast episodes that we have on the docket, but it's like there is so much you can do with anything that you present to the kids, and like
tie it into so many different.
Yeah, you can tie it into social emotional and mindfulness. You can tie it into science. You can tie it into math. Like all of it.
All of it. Math is in everything, and that I do know. And I do understand how. I can't always make it work out right, but I do understand that concept. So I do use that, and I use that in 6th grade all the time, and I would joke and helping them get percents and stuff, even though I know how to do that. But what I'm saying is I would talk about how math's and everything, and if it came up and if I was aware, I would make sure I said it, and I do it now too.
Yeah.
And science, we're talking about STEAM. I try to make STEAM every day. Yeah. Right? Science, technology.
What does it stand for?
Engineering, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics.
And then STEM is?
You leave out the arts.
Dumb.
Never leave out arts.
That's why I'm saying it's dumb. They shouldn't leave out the arts.
No, it's STEM.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. And I'm sticking with it. You can't leave out the arts.
That's the point. That's don't. What I'm saying. We do STEAM. We do it as often. Like we're singing, we're dancing.
Train engines.
Yeah. STEAM. We're right. Well, but we're doing it all the time. In fact, the first week of school, one of my little ones said, I'm going to be an engineer. This is in the beginning. So I have never forgotten that. And so, of course, when something's happening, when we're talking about the vertices or whatever, and we actually use those real words.
Vertices? Right? You say vertices?
Vertices.
Is that how you say it?
Where 2 points meet, right?
Mom, I got into speech pathology so I could be done with math.
Well, anyways, that's an engineering concept. Or we worked with blueprints.
That's pretty cool.
My husband brought home some blueprints for me. I laminated them. We looked at the angles. We looked at the shapes inside of the blueprints.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating to bring the real world into what they're doing. And that is in the curriculum, but not everybody has access to blueprints. So that's not in the curriculum, right? But
yeah, but Mrs. Cook's students do.
That's right.
So they're better for it. No, but
what do you think about cooking in preschool?
Because we're not talking about
that's
we're way off topic now.
Well, that's
cooking.
All right.
Cooking in
that's science.
It's in my eye. It's bugging me. Cooking in preschool is fantastic.
It is fantastic.
If the kids can do it. I know one of the speech pathologists I work with, she does bring in does she bring in food to cook though? I don't think they cook it, but her center time activity for different themes, she'll bring in foods they can try, which I think is so fun.
That's an idea.
I have just not yet had the capacity to prep that thing, but I'm very much my activities. We'll have to do a episode. I'm recording. I'll write it down when I listen to this recording. We'll have to do an episode on center time planning, because it'd be interesting for us to hear how we each do that. Yeah. Because I guarantee you I'm very different than you. But we'll have
that'd
to
be
get
interesting.
Into that. Yeah, I am basically I don't plan.
Well, I plan.
But I do.
I plan based off. I have a structure of plans. I'm required to teach certain things. That's part of my commitment in my job title. But I can have the freedom to teach the way I feel I need to, and the way I feel I need to is watching what my children are ready for, how they would access that information, and use that to make my plans.
Well, yeah.
So my plans might change from day to day. I have an incredible PowerPoint plan.
You forgot when I said this is being a different episode.
Oh, of course I did. ADD.
But no, I mean, I get no. I'm saying it would be interesting though for us to talk about it and kind of see how when you have someone if you were to have a speech pathologist coming in to run a center, how you plan around that and collaborate. But we'll get there.
Right. Now looking forward to having the viewers send ideas too, because I think that would be really fun, and reading their comments and stuff. Yeah, I just think it would be a fun way to blend what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, no, I mean, and as always, since we're saying it now, you can always leave a comment now if you're thinking of ideas for us. That's super helpful and awesome, and it helps us collaborate. With you.
It's just like what we're doing. I'm collaborating with my own students. They're 4 and 5. But I'm collaborating with them. Let's talk about, do you remember this? How could we do this differently? And try to put those ideas into practice.
But circling back to mindfulness in the classroom. Now that
I don't think we've gotten off topic.
Well, no, you can't really get off topic with.
But I think being in the moment.
I
think when we ourselves are able to be in the moment, and I reset in front of the children often, I felt that we were going fast. Yeah. I needed just to breathe.
Yeah.
And they will mimic that.
Yeah.
And that's what your little girl is doing, that you say she comes from yogi parents.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but I'm assuming.
Right.
Or again, she just was born with some gift that she is just using.
We all do.
It's amazing to watch.
I really would love to be able to see her. Yeah. That's exciting.
She's just a doll, and I appreciate her because she's
teaching you.
She's teaching me, but these are things I've always been very intentional about bringing into, whether it's my sessions or now it's into the classroom, since I'm in the classrooms now more. So to see a child that just really gets that, because like I said, I guess I just don't expect them all to really just 100% get it.
But
I don't
if that's their environment, then that's what they do.
But she does, and she really has an appreciation and a gratitude about it, and it's so sweet to watch.
Gratitude, teaching gratitude every day. We do we say be respectful, be responsible, be
your best you.
Something like that.
What they say?
I'm thrown off, but the last one is be kind. That one we all say together, and then right afterward I always throw in, what happens when you're kind to others? What happens to you? It makes you feel good. and we talk about how that feels. Why should we bother being kind if it's not going to benefit me? Because we are ultimately selfish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're learning how to not be selfish, but at the same time, we're saying our feelings matter. So how about that kind feeling? What does that feel like, you know, and really make them think about it?
Well, and I think, too, just, again, me coming from, like, this inclusion background, when we are truly, like, sharing about that and how it makes their friends feel when they're kind to them and how it helps friends feel to be a part of the group and be included in the group and that everybody has, a place in this classroom and...
Everybody's important. And how does a teacher make the children see that everybody has a place?
Something that I really appreciate in classrooms is when I walk into a classroom that has a pretty common philosophy of not talking about the child too, like in front of them. So like, especially as a service provider or when you're in a classroom that has instructional aides or multiple teachers, there are moments where maybe there's an issue and you're like, oh, in front of the kids, oh, Johnny is just not listening today. No. Johnny's making red choices. Oh. And I don't mind, like, if you talk directly to that child and say, Johnny, you seem like your body needs to take a break. Let's take a breath together. That's one thing. And when you're doing that with Johnny, make sure, like, you're also modeling that with the other kids. I think we all need to take a break or we all need to take a breath.
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm not guilty of this. I've definitely walked into a classroom with a child after speech. The teacher, what do they do? Well, how'd they do? And I don't want to be dishonest,
Right.
But I, earlier on as a speech pathologist, I'd say, well, we had some trouble listening, blah, blah, blah. And now I look back, I'm like, well, I can learn from that and let that past experience go. But I'm really aware of, like, how that would feel if I was that child. And, like, when you're that age, too, and you're just... like they're so aware, even if you don't think they are. I had a moment with a student recently. I forget which classroom. I always have to picture what classroom was I at to really remember what happened.
The situation, yeah.
But there was a situation with a student that and again, pin this idea for another podcast because I think we could go on and on about this. But he doesn't always show eye contact, and he's autistic, and so that's not something that sensory speaking is
almost an ability.
Not that it's not. Well, it's more so like wearing an itchy sweater. Like it doesn't feel good.
Oh,
that's what I've learned, and now I'm still learning, and I'm still learning how to be more like neurodiversity affirming, meaning we're listening to people and adults that are autistic about how they learn and being better teachers for it, but. Ultimately, right, this student, because he isn't showing us by looking at things that we're pointing to or that he's looking directly at us when we're talking, there was an assumption made at some point earlier on in the year, like
that he was naughty.
Not that he was naughty, but that he wasn't paying attention, which is not true. Yeah, I know. But at circle time, he wasn't looking, but they were doing like a pattern with colors. And it looked like he wasn't paying attention. He had his sensory pillow and he was rubbing his pillow. But I was so proud. Well, I kind of said, oh, so-and-so didn't get a turn, And the teacher stopped him and was like, oh, and said his name. He didn't look. And she did the pattern, red, green, red. And he's still playing with sensory pillow. He goes, green. And it's like, so I just made a comment, and I said, I think it's so cool that you don't even have to look and you're learning, like you're showing us that because I wanted the teachers to see like, don't pressure this moment, like, or this ability or not ability, the skill of looking.
Yeah.
And then don't talk about it either. Like, oh, he's not looking, he must not be ready. That's not true. Like it just wasn't true. And so like, I don't even remember how I got on this topic, but basically, just having that awareness or that mindfulness of like, there's so many different styles of learning that happen in a classroom.
Exactly. That's why I don't make them sit in rows.
Right.
And I know that they're going on to the bigger grades. I get that. But they're not there yet.
Right.
So we're not sitting for inordinate amount of times at a desk. We're finding times and ways to do things differently because they have time for that and they will get that structure and they'll be fine. I can also tell when they're starting to lose interest, and so I'll do something big.
Right.
And say, oh my gosh, I can't even believe what happened on this page. You know, and just make it crazy. And of course they're going to go like this. So instead of calling that child out, you know, I'm begging y'all, try something else. Try to do, you know, or here's a good one. Wow, I like the way so-and-so really is paying attention. That's making your brain grow. You know, or something like that. And then everybody else is thinking,
well, my thing,
my brain to grow.
And maybe, you know, maybe this isn't something you agree with. I don't know, because I haven't been in your class. But my thing is, when you tell a preschool age student to focus, I just want to be like, do you think they know what you...
Do they even know what it means?
You could teach them. I know, but I guess I hear it a lot, like, focus, please, focus. And I'm like, focus, they're 3 and they've been sitting here for 10 minutes. They're done.
Sometimes in my experience, and yes, I've only been back and only my first time in an elementary school doing TK, but I think sometimes the teachers just have that mindset from when they were in the elder classrooms. And it's not their fault, but that's one of our goals, is to try to remind you that there's a way that 4 and 5-year-olds are different. And the expectation on ourselves can be different. And it's so much fun. It's much fun to do it this way.
It is fun. And, you know, and I laugh because I'm like, yeah, the kids that have a harder time focusing, whatever, like you're saying, you might have your aide go and just like sit near them to help them.
And remind, even
some
just
kids
a little
need those minimal reminders of like, oh, like right now we're listening to Mrs. Cook.
Or whisper in their ear, wow, look at that picture.
Yes, exactly.
You know, just something to pull them in. Or
exactly.
You know.
Nothing, and it's just a helpful reminder. But I was thinking of something just before I forget this, because I think it is worth saying, when you were talking about how, you know, when we're being mindful educators, we're also kind of, when we're following their lead, like, maybe you have like some structure, but you're kind of letting them figure out like where they want to sit on the carpet. Like that's, you know, or...
And if there's not a space, that's learning. Like, how can we make a space for this friend?
But also, because I have kids where, you know, I usually when I run a center, I'll either do a carpet center, like a play-based center on the carpet, or it's like a play-based center, but it's at the table. And some of my kids don't want to sit in a chair, and I let them stand. They might just need to stand there and wiggle or whatever, and they can stand. As long as they're not climbing on the table, we're pretty much solid, right? I've had a kid under the table, and he's still attending. Like, I'm like, whatever. Yeah. But I think what is really interesting, and if we think about kind of turning on the mindful educator part of it, when we are allowing them to kind of, you know, when we're allowing them to explore and be more exploratory in these early years, we can really learn a lot about how they learn to help it on an individualized level. And I guess this is me coming from that very like specialized, like special education, IEP, individualized, blah, blah, blah. But when, you know, Johnny, like, he typically, like, likes to zoom around the class. Or, like, I have kids that, like, they need, like, movement breaks, and they've just learned if I just get up, do a couple laps around the rug, I know how to come right back and sit down. So I don't say anything. When those kids get up, I'm like, they don't need a reminder to come back to their seat. But now I know, as he goes on into kindergarten, I can make a note in his IEP, does well with movement breaks. And I can tell his, you know, future team, his future case manager, his future SLP, like, if he gets up, like, it really isn't a big deal. He comes back. Or he gets up because he needs a break, but he doesn't know how to tell me he needs a break. And so I'm working on that with him. Right. And that sets their future up, like...
For success.
And so when, as educators, we're mindful about even that aspect of it, about being open to their individualized learning styles at this early level, we are going to be able to better provide them the foundation that going forward as an individualized learner, we can teach them even now, like, how to advocate for themselves.
Yes.
And like I'm saying, I'm starting to teach kids, oh, you need a break? Tell me. Point to your visual, sign it, like whatever you need.
And they honestly don't have to be on an IEP.
No,
and never. A lot of them
not.
will never be on one because they don't make it up like 100%. Maybe
they don't hit that.
There's just a mark, and maybe they could use that stuff. And you know, to my district's credit, or our district, sorry, they do ask us to always try those modifications, and so I see teachers doing that, and and that's what works. Instead of labeling a child, you know, won't sit still, you know, but you can teach them how to ask for those breaks, and we can say, yes, thank you for knowing what you need.
Exactly.
You know, it's a beautiful thing, because gosh, it's so frustrating to see a little kid get labeled. You know,
like, you mean like naughty or whatever?
Yeah. Because it's
I just wanted to clarify, because I don't want it to sound like we're saying like it's being labeled on an IEP.
Oh, no, I don't mean that. No, just being bad or good.
No, because
in a nutshell.
I think, and from your perspective, you probably like, because I think for me, I automatically go, IEP label, that's not a bad thing.
Right,
but I think for you, you're thinking of, you understand from being a 6th grade teacher, like you get students where you see the report cards and teachers have maybe written like talkative, right? What are the different, I'm thinking of a bunch of SLP Instagram memes right now. There was this funny meme that went out, like, whatever happened to all the kids that were labeled talkative in class? And then she's like, we all became SLPs. Except I was never labeled talkative in class. I was shy.
Oh, that's super funny.
But I was actually the kid that didn't come out of the shell.
You did later, though.
Later, but like at first it was like, oh, like, she's kind of shy. She's quiet. She's reserved.
But see, what happens is, and I think this happened to me too, is the things that we were in our childhood do promote what we do as educators. We want to, we understand.
You want to nurture those kids.
You understand things about those quiet kids. I
tell parents all the time,
being quiet and being little, you were like your little friend that you were talking about, the 4-year-old that has yogi parents. You were watching, and you were I'm her mom. I remember watching you and watching what you were learning. And I also had to teach you certain social skills. Right? I mean, those were taught without shaming you.
No, but anybody,
this is how it works. Everybody gets a turn.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, but when I look back at that, you know, I'm like, I just had, like, I had a hard time, I think about my students, I had a hard time initiating with peers and stuff because I was shy. And I just was like, not like I would always I wanted to play with friends or whatever, but until they came and approached me, I was like, I'm fine. I'll play by myself. And, it's interesting to look back at that. And
it's really cool for me as somebody who's done this career for my first career and then left it for a while and had that whole time. I was blessed as a mom because I got to see every day of my young children. And so I watched what they were doing, and now I look back and I can use that information, longitudinal research on 3 kids, right? Honestly.
You're welcome.
Because they're all 3 different. And of course, I'll give myself credit for that because they got to be different. I didn't compare them to each other.
Thank you.
Which is another thing that teachers need to not do.
With students.
We can't compare, this year is just terrible, or, we gotta choose not to do that.
I know.
And that is a choice. We have to say, no, we are here for a reason. We got these specific children for a reason. That's why there are gifts this year. And that's important to remember.
Yeah.
And it is, as we continue with our that's a mindful thing to be.
That's very important, because again, and going back to when we're talking to our students and how we're talking to our students, that seeps in. If you're allowing the feeling of, this is not my year, I'm getting all the, and I don't mean this, but all the hard
children.
Kids. I don't like saying that, but that's what I hear.
That's what we hear. I know.
But it's then how are you talking to those quote unquote, challenging, hard kids.
The kids hear it in your tone.
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
I know. You
so
watch what you I know what I see.
You have to be so mindful about that.
Yeah.
And if you have to sit and take a moment before you start the day and just let it go, you need to take time for that. And you need to journal, brain dump, like do the things that are good for you to take care of your own mind, so your mindset going into a teaching environment.
Right.
I know I'm preaching to the choir because you know this. You taught me this.
Right.
But it's important because then we want to be able to teach these kids how to be more mindful. And I didn't even take a minute to plug the journals, but I guess I should just say that even I've created a kid's gratitude journal because I've seen the power of this work in a little one's life. So it is, it's powerful stuff, and you can reach them at any level. You can talk to them about what makes you happy. Or like asking them when they come into the playground to talk to each other, or from the playground or wherever. You can prompt them and be like, what was your favorite part about recess today? Did you enjoy it? You look like you had fun going down the slide. Did that make you feel good? I mean, even that is a way to incorporate it into a daily. I had the kids do affirmations to their friends this week.
Nice.
They had to look at a friend and tell them, you are kind, you are smart.
Oh, that's great.
It was so cute. They were way more excited to do that than they were to do it for themselves last week. I think maybe because we did it last week and they understood the idea of an affirmation a little better, or because they got to look at a friend. I think it was the social interaction.
Something you can do just as a little self-study. Notice how it's very hard for adults to look at each other in the eyes for too long.
Oh, yeah.
Stop and just see how long somebody talks to you with eye contact. Then watch the grades as you see the different grade levels, because I've been around children all my life, so I do know. Little kids, they start early having a little bit of that looking away thing. And so I'm teaching them, look deep into their eyes. And they, look. Do you see the brown part, or is it blue? And it's a great thing.
Yeah.
That's another way to make a child mindful.
Yeah.
Because you're stopping everything else and you're just focusing on that key detail.
Yeah. No, it's powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful, and we're going to be out of time in 2 minutes.
Well, I gotta say, there's some really wise old thinkers. I'm talking thousands of years ago, right? That said, learn from children.
And like I said in the first episode, my kids are my best teachers. My students are my best teachers.
So that would be a gift to yourself, is to really look at what lights them up.
Yeah.
And learn from it. And give yourself that opportunity to be lit up about something. And remember that so much is so new. They haven't been on this planet very long. And they deserve to be, they deserve to have people in their life that remember that.
Yeah. Even if, it's one teacher in TK, they'll remember. They may not remember your face, your name, but they'll know how you made them feel. That's what we always tell each other, as educators, when just remember, they're going to remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
Whether it was good or bad.
I remember my kinder teacher.
Let us know how you're incorporating mindfulness in your classrooms, your speech therapy sessions. And if you need any handouts or freebies, you can find them over at thanksmorris.com to help get you started. I have calendars that go out every month to pick out mindfulness activities you can do with kids. I have a journal for kids, journals for adults. Fun things. So if you need it,
I think I'll pick me some up.
Actually, you should be using my mindfulness calendars, but she didn't know I did that. So I'll send them to you. All right. Until next time.
Thank you.